The pattern across the United Kingdom is shifting. And if you've been waiting for proper winter weather, particularly across the eastern half of the country, the next 10 days deserve your attention. Let me walk you through what is happening, why it is happening, and what you need to know. Right now, conditions across the country are rather mixed. The Scottish Highlands saw temperatures well below freezing overnight. Some areas dropped to -5 or 6 Celsius, where there's snow lying on the ground, it is even colder. Meanwhile, across the south and west, it's been milder, 8 or 9 degrees. Cloud cover keeping things from getting too cold, but also preventing any meaningful sunshine. This morning, fog has been the main concern across parts of the Midlands and northern England. Thick patches in places, visibility down to 50 metres in some areas. That creating icy conditions where temperatures have dropped below freezing overnight. If you are travelling this morning, take it steady. The fog should lift through mid-morning, but some areas will stay misty and murky all day. That's just how it is at this time of year. The western coasts are seeing showers. Wales, Devon, Cornwall, the eastern side of Northern Ireland, and southwest Scotland. Some of these showers are heavy. The odd rumble of thunder, flash of lightning. Nothing particularly unusual for January, but worth noting if you are in those areas. Most of the Midlands, northern England, and a good part of Scotland will stay dry today. Sunshine will be limited. We're re-looking at rather grey conditions for many. Temperatures today reach 7 to 9 degrees across the south. Further north, after that cold start, we are looking at 5 to 7 degrees. Around the average for mid-January. Not particularly warm, but not exceptionally cold either. Now, let me explain what is developing. And this is where it gets interesting. The models, particularly the ECMWF and the UKMO, are showing a shift towards an easterly pattern. That means air coming from the continent rather than the Atlantic. And at this time of year, easterlies bring cold. Sometimes very cold. Here, what is happening meteorologically. High pressure is building across Scandinavia. At the same time, low pressure is sitting to our south, near the Mediterranean or northern France. When you get that set up, high to the north and east, low to the south, you get an easterly flow across the UK. The air comes from Russia, Poland, Germany. Continental air. Dry and cold, this pattern looks like it establishes itself around the 20th or 21st of January. That next week, and it could persist through to the end of the month, possibly into early February. The AI models, which some of you will know about, are also picking up on this. They're re-showing the same easterly pattern. Now, AI models work on historical patterns. They look at what happened before when we've had similar setups, and they re-suggesting this easterly flow has good potential to develop. That worth noting, though I'm still putting more weight on the traditional models for now. The ECMWF has been consistent on this for the past 4 or 5 runs. The UKMO is in agreement. The GFS is wobbling a bit, which is typical at this range. But the overall message is clear. Easterlies are favoured. What does that mean for you? For Eastern England and East Anglia, this could be significant. UV had a quiet winter so far. Temperatures hovering around 6 or 7 degrees, grey skies, rather dull conditions. That extended mild spell looks like it's ending. Easterly winds often bring snow to eastern areas. Not guaranteed, but the potential is there. For Scotland, particularly the north and east, UE already dealing with cold conditions. This pattern would reinforce that. Temperatures could drop to -10 or lower overnight in the Highlands. During the day, struggling to get above freezing in many areas. Snow showers are likely, especially along the east coast where the wind comes off the North Sea. For the west, Wales, Cornwall, Devon, Western Scotland, it is a different story. Easterly patterns tend to leave western areas dry. The air has crossed the country by the time it reaches you. It's lost most of its moisture. You might actually see more sunshine than the east, but it will be cold. Make no mistake about that. Northern Ireland sits in an interesting position. You could see some snow showers, particularly on the eastern side. But overall, you will likely be drier than you have been recently. Let me give you some context. The beast from the east in 2018. Many of you remember that. High pressure over Scandinavia, low pressure to the south, easterly winds bringing Siberian air across the UK. Temperatures dropped to -14 in some areas. Significant snow, particularly across eastern England and Scotland. This setup we're re-looking at now is similar, though not identical. The models aren't showing quite the same intensity, but the pattern is comparable. Back in January 1987, we had a prolonged easterly spell, lasted nearly 3 weeks. Heavy snow across eastern counties. The Midlands saw significant accumulations. That was driven by a similar high-pressure block across Scandinavia. I'm not saying we'll see a repeat of those events. But the pattern we're re-looking at has that potential, and it's worth taking seriously. Now, let's talk about confidence levels. For the next 3 days, Friday through Sunday, confidence is high. The pattern is well established. We know what S happening. For next week, Monday through Wednesday, confidence is good. The models are in strong agreement on the broad setup. For the end of January, say the 25th onwards, confidence drops. We are 10 to 15 days out. Things can change, but the signal for easterlies is there. It is persistent across multiple model runs. That gives me more confidence than I do normally have at this range. Here is what you should be thinking about. If you are in Eastern England, start preparing now. Not in a panic, just sensible preparation. Check your torch works. Make sure you've got supplies in, bread, milk, the basics. If it snows, even 5 or 10 centimeters, transport can be disrupted. We don't handle snow as well in the east as they do in Scotland. That's just reality. If you are in Scotland, you're already dealing with cold and snow. This pattern doesn't change much for you, just reinforces what you've got. Keep doing what you were doing. Grit the paths, multiple times if needed. Don't assume once is enough. For those in the south who don't see this sort of cold often, take it seriously. Easterly winds feel harsh. The temperature might say -2, but with wind chill, it feels like -8 or -10. Layer up. Hat, gloves, scarf. Elderly neighbours and relatives need checking on. Make sure they've got heating and food. If you've got travel plans for the end of January, keep an eye on forecasts. I am not saying cancel anything, but be aware. If this easterly pattern establishes itself, there could be disruption. For farmers and those with livestock, this is your concern period. Easterlies bring drying winds, but also cold. Water supplies can freeze. Check your animals daily. Make sure they've got shelter. Let's talk about the weekend briefly. Saturday looks like a messy mix. Cloud for many areas. Showers working northwards across Scotland. Western coasts of Wales and Northern Ireland will continue to see showers. Elsewhere, perhaps brightening up a touch through the day. Temperatures close to average. 7 to 9 degrees, winds fairly light. Sunday is similar. Another grey day for most. Not much in the way of sunshine, showers here and there, but for quite a few of us, it should be dry. Not particularly exciting, but not terrible either. Into next week, Monday and Tuesday, we start to see the transition. Winds backing more to the east, temperatures beginning to drop. By Wednesday, the easterly flow should be established. Now, I want to address something. Some forecasts have been suggesting this easterly pattern for weeks. Then it hasn't materialized. I understand the frustration. Winter forecasting in the UK is difficult. We at the battleground between Atlantic and continental air masses. Small shifts make big differences, but this time the signal is stronger. The models are more consistent. The pattern aloft at 500 millibars shows a blocking high over Scandinavia. That's the key. When you get blocking at that level, it tends to be persistent. It doesn't shift easily. I'm not promising a month of snow and ice, but I am saying the pattern for the end of January looks notably different from what we've had so far this winter. For those of you across the Midlands who've found this winter dull, temperatures hovering around 6 or 7 degrees, grey skies, this pattern change offers something different. Colder, yes, potentially snowier, but also the possibility of clearer skies, particularly if the easterly flow becomes established. The contrast across the country over the next 10 days could be significant. Eastern areas seeing snow and ice, western areas staying drier but cold. Scotland dealing with the most persistent cold and snow. That is the likely scenario. Pressure patterns show low pressure to our south around 980 millibars. High pressure over Scandinavia around 1030 millibars. That gradient drives the easterly wind, and that gradient looks like it persists through the end of the month. One thing to watch is whether low pressure tracks further north than currently modelled. If it does, southern England could see more significant snow. If it stays further south, the snow risk is mainly for eastern and northern areas. That's the uncertainty we are dealing with. The jet stream position is crucial here. It's currently running south of the UK. That allows the Scandinavian high to build and persist. If the jet shifts north, it could break down the pattern, but right now there is no sign of that happening. For precipitation amounts, if we do see snow, eastern areas could see 5 to 15 centimetres, possibly more over higher ground. The Pennines, the North York Moors, these areas could see significant accumulations. 20 to 30 centimetres over the highest ground isn't out of the question. Western areas might only see 1 or 2 centimetres, if anything. The easterly flow dries out as it crosses the country. Wind speeds want to be extreme. We're relooking at 15 to 25 miles per hour from the east, but that S enough to create wind chill, and it S enough to drift snow where it does fall. Let me be clear about what I am not saying. I am not saying this is guaranteed. Weather forecasting at 10 to 15 days is uncertain. Things can change. But the pattern we are looking at has good support from multiple models, and it's worth preparing for. I am also not saying this is the beast from the East Mark II. The models aren't showing that level of intensity. What they are showing is a cold easterly pattern, potentially snowy for eastern areas. cold for all areas, persistent through the end of January. For those waiting for proper winter weather, this is your window. If this pattern establishes, you will get it. If you were hoping for mild Atlantic air to continue, you are likely to be disappointed. The temperature swings we've had this winter, one day 12 degrees, next day 3, then back up again, have been difficult. People have been poorly, sinus trouble, headaches, general malaise. That back and forth pattern looks like it ends next week. Once the easterly flow establishes, temperatures will be more consistently cold, but at least stable. Flood warnings are in place this morning for parts of Somerset. That mild Atlantic air brought heavy rain. By next week, that one to be a concern. Easterlies bring dry conditions for most areas. The flood risk shifts to thaw flooding if we get significant snow followed by a rapid melt. But that SA concern for early February, not late January. For gardeners, this cold could be beneficial. A good freeze helps break dormancy in some plants, splits garlic bulbs properly. If you've got tender plants, bring them in now. Don't wait until the forecast is 12 hours away. Road conditions will be the main practical concern. Eastern England doesn't grit as thoroughly as Scotland. That's economics, not incompetence. You don't see heavy snow often enough to justify the same level of infrastructure. But when easterlies bring snow, transport can be disrupted. If you can work from home during the cold spell, that's worth considering. Schools in eastern areas might close if we see significant snow. That's disruptive, particularly for working parents. Plan ahead if you can. The elderly are most at risk during cold spells. Check on older relatives and neighbours. Make sure they've got heating. Make sure they're re-eating properly. Cold weather increases risk of heart attacks and strokes. That's medical fact, not scaremongering. For those in the southwest, Devon and Cornwall, you've had lovely weather recently. Mild and dry for a fortnight in some areas. That's about to change. You'll see temperatures drop. Frost will return. It won't be as harsh as eastern areas, but it will be notably colder than you've experienced recently. The Pennines will see snow. That's almost certain if this pattern establishes. How much depends on precipitation levels, but some snow is highly likely. East Anglia, I know many of you have been waiting for snow. You've gone several winters without decent covering in some areas. This pattern has potential. I am not promising anything, but if you are going to see snow this winter, this is probably your best chance. London and the home counties might see snow, might not. You are in the transitional zone. If low pressure tracks further north, you will see it. If it stays south, you will just see cold and dry conditions. That uncertainty won to resolve until we closer to the event. Wales, particularly North Wales and Snowdonia, could see some snow on the highest ground. But overall, you will likely be drier than you've been recently. The easterly flow leaves you in a rain shadow. The Western Isles, Orkney, Shetland, you will continue to see showers. Snow showers when the air is cold enough. Winds will be lighter than you often experience, coming from an unusual direction. For those interested in the technical details, the 500 millibar height anomaly shows significant positive values over Scandinavia. That is the blocking pattern. It's forecast to persist for 7 to 10 days. That's longer than typical. The North Atlantic Oscillation Index is forecast to go negative. That favors blocking patterns. The Arctic Oscillation is also trending negative. Both of these support the easterly pattern the models are showing. The Madden-Julian Oscillation is in a phase that supports blocking over Europe. All of these teleconnections are lining up. That increases confidence. Some of you follow the model runs closely. You will know there have been wobbles. The 6Z run yesterday showed less cold than the 12Z run. That's normal. Models adjust as new data comes in. But the overall pattern, high to the east, low to the south, has been consistent. One run showing something different doesn't mean the pattern has collapsed. Look at the ensemble mean. Look at multiple models. The signal is there. For the end of the month, around the 30th and 31st of January, there is a possibility the pattern starts to break down. Atlantic air trying to push back in. But that is very uncertain at this range. The primary message is easterlies through to around the 28th or 29th. If you are planning anything outdoors for the end of January, be flexible. Don't commit to something you can change if the weather turns difficult. For those of you who enjoy winter weather, this could be the best spell of the winter so far. Proper cold, potentially snow for some areas, clear skies if the easterly becomes established. That's worth looking forward to. For those who don't enjoy cold weather, I understand. It is not everyone's preference. But as part of living in the UK, we get these patterns occasionally. They don't last forever. By early February, the Atlantic usually reasserts itself. The key message is this: the pattern is shifting. Easterlies are favoured for the end of January. That means cold for all areas. Potentially snow for eastern and northern areas. Drier conditions for western areas. Prepare sensibly. Don't panic, but don't ignore it either. Keep watching forecasts. Things can still change. But the signal is stronger than it's been for a while. This is worth taking seriously. I'll continue to monitor the models and provide updates. If the pattern changes, I'll let you know. If it strengthens, I'll let you know. Right now, the most likely scenario is an easterly pattern establishing around the 20th or 21st, persisting through to the end of the month. Stay warm, stay safe, and I'll see you in the